Hello everyone, welcome to my course. In the previous lecture, I am going to explain about basics of C++ and installation. And in this lecture, I am covering about operators, data types and variables. First, I am telling about operators. C++ also contains the type conversion operators constant cast, static cast, dynamic cast and reinterpret cast. The formatting of these operators means that their precedence level is unimportant. Computations on operands. In other words, we can say that an operator operates the operands. This is the list of operators in the C and C++ programming languages. All the operators listed exist in C++. The fourth column included in C states whether an operator is also present in C. Note that C does not support operator overloading. When not overloaded for the operations and there is a sequence point after the evaluation of the first operand. Here is an operator example. Now I am telling about C++ data types. All variables use data type during declaration to restrict the type of data to be stored. Therefore, we can say that data types are used to tell the variables the type of data it can store. Whenever a variable is defined in C++, the compiler allocates some memory for that variables based on the data type with which it is declared. Every data type requires a different amount of memory. Now I will learn about variables. What is variable? Here is the variable initialization example in C++. A variable provides us with named storage that our programs can manipulate. Each variable in C++ has a specific type which determines the size and layout of the variable's memory, the range of values that can be stored within that memory, and the set of operations that can be applied to the variable. Rule of declaring variables in C++. The first character must be a letter or underscore. Here is another example to show the usage of variables in C++. Variables are used in C++ where you will need to store any type of values within a program and whose values can be changed during the program execution. These variables can be declared in various ways, each having different memory requirements and storing capability. Variables are the name of memory locations that are allocated by compilers, and the allocation is done based on the data type used for declaring the variable. That's all for the lecture. Thank you for watching. So in the previous lecture I was learned about operators, data types and variables. In the present lecture I will learn about classes and functions. So let's start. First I am covering about classes. A C++ function definition consists of a function header and a function body. Here are all the parts of a function. Return type: a function may return a value. The return type is the data type of the value the function returns. Some functions perform the desired operations without returning a value. In this case, the return type is the keyword void. The register class: the register storage class is used to define local variables that should be stored in a register. Instead of RAM, this means that the variables has a maximum size equal to the register size and can't have the unary and operator applied to it. Be used for variables that requires quick access such as counters. It should also be noted that defining register does not mean that the variable will be stored in a register. A storage class defines the scope and lifetime of variables and functions within a C++ program. Now I am going to learn about function. Parameters. A parameter is like a placeholder. When a function is invoked, you pass a value to the parameter. This value is referred to as actual parameter or argument. The parameter list refers to the type, order and number of the parameters of a function. Let us see the example. External classes. Of codes throughout the rest of the program. The static storage class instructs the compiler to keep a local variable in goes out of scope. The static modifier may also be applied to global variables. When this is done, it causes that variable's scope to be restricted to the file in which it is declared. Let us look the example. User defined function. C++ allows programmers to define their own function. A user defined function groups code to perform a specific task, and that group of code is given a name. When the function is invoked from any part of program, it all executes the code defined in the body of function. That is all for the lecture. Hope all of are understand. Thank you for watching. In the last lecture, I was covered about classes and functions. Now I am going to learn about if-else statements. Control flow jumps to the block or statement following the else keyword or simply to after the entire if statement. The following code identifies even or odd numbers using an if-else statement and the modulus operator. C has also provides for a second part to the if statement, that is else. The else statement must follow if or if else statement. Also else statement can appear. Look at the example about the basics format of if false statement. The ability to control the flow of your program, letting it make decisions on what code to execute, it valuable to the programmer. If the test expression if is false, it executes the codes inside the body of else statement and skips the codes is inside the body of if. If statement takes condition in parenthesis and a block of statements within braces. If condition is true, it will return non-zero value, and statements given in if block will get execute. If condition is false, it will return 0, and statements given in the else block will get execute. Look at the another example of if false, if else. The else part at the end of the if statement specifies one or more statements that are to be executed when the condition is false. The if statement also, alone tells us what if a condition is true, it will execute a block of statements, and if the condition is false, it won't. But what if we want to do something else if the condition is false? Here comes the else statement. We can use the else statement with if statement to execute a block of code when the condition is false. Here is another example about if false statement, if else statement. Sometimes you have a condition and you want to execute a block of code if condition is true and execute another pieces of code if the same condition is false. This can be achieved in C++ using if-else statement. The if-else executes the codes inside the body of if statement is if the test expression is true and skips the codes inside the body of else. This program uses the modulus operator to determine if a number is odd or even. That's all for the lecture. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, welcome to my course. In the previous lecture, I am going to tell about if-else statements. In the present lecture, I will learn about arrays and strings. First, I am covering about arrays. An array is one of the data structure in C++ that can store a fixed size sequential collections of elements of the same data type. Array is a series of elements of the same type placed in contiguous memory locations that can be individually referenced by adding an index to a unique identifier. That means that, for example, 5 values of type integer can be declared as an array without having to declare 5 different variables. Instead, using an array, the 5 integer values are stored in contiguous memory locations, and all 5 can be accessed using the same identifier with the proper index. But the elements is in an array can be explicitly initialized to specify specific values when it is declared. By enclosing those initial values in braces. Here is the example of array. Accessing array elements. Array index starts with 0, which means the first array element is at index 0, second is at index 1, and so on. We can use this information to display the array elements. To accept an array as parameter for a function, the parameters can be declared as the array type, but with empty brackets omitting the actual size of the array. Let's look the example. Containers are a library feature that falls out of the scope of this tutorial, and thus the class will not be explained in detail here. Suffice it to say that they operate in a similar way to built-in arrays, except that they allow being copied and they decay into pointers only when explicitly told to do so. Now I am going to learn about strings. C++ has in its definition a way to represent sequence of characters as an object of class. This class is called string. A string class stores the characters as a sequence of bytes with the functionality of allowing access to single byte character. Strings are objects that represent sequences of characters. Let's look at the example of string. Initializing arrays. By default, regular arrays of local scope are left uninitialized. This means that none of its elements are set to any particular value. Their contents are undetermined at the point the array is declared. That's all for this lecture. Hope you understand all of the things. Thank you for watching. In the last lecture, I was explained about arrays and strings, and in this lecture I am going to cover about web programming in C++. You will get a new test of linking web with your C++ program. For this you need to have knowledge of basics of CGI and how it works. What I see CGI. The Common Gateway Interface is a standard for enabling applications to interact with web servers and with clients. CGI is often used to generate dynamic web content using client input, databases and other information service. A web page is dynamic if its content is generated programmatically when the page is requested, unlike static web content which is not generated programmatically when the page is requested. CGI stands for Common Gateway Interface is a set of standards that define how information is exchanged from the web server, passing the web user's request to an application program and to receive data back to the user. When any user requests for a web page, the server sends back the requested page. Here is the first CGI example. Content length n, the length in bytes of the data being returned. This value n is used by the browser to report the estimated download time. Set cookie string, used to set the cookie passed through the string originating the request. Path info, it gives the path for the CGI script. Remote adder, the IP address of the visitors I.E. is the IP address of the remote host making the request. Remote host, the host name of the visitors I.E, the fully qualified name of the host making the request. There are some other HTTP headers which are frequently used in CGI programs. They are content type. It is a MIME string which defines the format of the file being returned. Expires date, it defines the date, the information of the current web page become invalid. Location URL, the URL that has to be returned instead of the URL that is requested. Last modified date, the date is date of last modification of the resource originating the request. Path info, it gives the path for the CGI script. Remove adder, the IP address of the visitors I.E, the IP address of the remote host making the request. Remote host, the host name of the visitor I.E, the fully qualified name of the host making the request. That is all for this lecture. Thank you for watching.